Yeah. I love my HBCU. And boy, I love it, love it. I love it, love it. I love my HBCU. And man, I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. Yeah, man. I hope my team they won one. I hope my team they won one. I tune into the HBCU Sports Lab to see if my team won or lost. If they lost, I'm quiet as a mouse. But if they won, keep tab. I'ma do the dab, yeah. Dr. Cavil, he know what he be talking about. Mike and Charles, they know what they be talking about. They compress the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they won or lost, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. As you see, both Mike Washington and Charles Bishop are out on assignment. Charles might be able to come in here as he's taking care of some business and may be able to jump in later in the show. We'll keep an eye out and see if he can get it done. But further ado, we're still here to bring you a show, and I have my main backup pinch hitter, clinical Professor A.D. Drew, as always, ready to get it done. Welcome to episode 356 Inside the HBCU Sports Lab radio show and podcast, the show that's covering the sporting HBCU dash for all things HBCU sports, for institutions large and small, from the NAIA to the NCAA. We share insights and information on the HBCU sports culture. HBCU athletic aesthetics facilitate the story of HBCU athletic programs in the business of HBCU sports. I'm your host, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, along with my co-host Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. We're filming from our home studios in Sydney, a signal live to KCOH 1230 AM studios with the Texas Radio Hall of Famer Ralph Cooper in the beautiful home of Texas Southern University from Houston, Texas. Today's episode of Inside the HBCU Sports Lab is sponsored by THG Agency, LLC. THG Agency is a company that provides sporting and educational consulting and data analytics. Before I ask you how you're doing today, I do want to say I did send your paperwork in for your supplement pay, AD Drew, to the provost's office. So we're waiting on the signature to come back. Hopefully it gets signed off. We'll get you squared away and we'll send it over to HR, and you'll be right for all additional work and hard work you're doing. I just want you to know your paperwork has been signed and sent in by the dean. With that being said, how you doing today, AD Drew?
Hey, I'm doing all right, my brother. Doing all right, but, paperwork and everything is fine. When am I going to get the bag, Dr. Cavil? When am I going to get the bag? And the question about the bag is, will it be a Louis or will it be a Lewis?
Right. You're not supposed to ask that publicly. But yeah,
my bad.
We're working on that.
I didn't know nobody was paying attention to us. I thought we was just on a regular Zoom call, man. My bad, man.
Exactly. With that being said, I want to jump into this. I know you pay attention to this kind of stuff, man. I was excited to see this, and we leaned in this about a week before, right before Christmas, when we started talking about Langston being undefeated. Well, guess what? The rest of the world is caught up. Langston University men's basketball ranked third in the NAIA team in the nation. This is courtesy to HBCU Game Day. The Lions entered the top 5 of the NAIA Top 25 poll for the first time since 2018-2019 season. Yes, they've been in the top 5 before. The Langston University men's basketball team entered the top 5 for the first time since the 2018-2019 season in the 4th edition of the NAIA men's basketball coaches top 25 poll. The national office announced Langston is the only undefeated team in the NAIA men's basketball coaches top 25 at 15-0 and ranked 3rd overall. So they're as high as 3rd with 520 total votes and also received 1 first-place vote. Somebody thinks they're good enough to be number 1. I wonder if they're out Oklahoma area in regards to that vote. The Lions are the highest-rated team in the Sooner Athletic Conference and ranked in the NAIA Top 25 for the 3rd consecutive NAIA Coaches Top 25 poll. Today's poll marks the highest that Langston University has ranked in the NCAA Coaches Top 25 poll. The previous was 4. They had got up to number 4 overall around the same time frame. That was January 2nd, in 2019. Statistically, Langston University in steals per game, 3.7, second in the NAIA in net efficiency, 0.326, third in points allowed per game, great on defense, 59.7, just under 60 points, and sixth offensively in efficiency, 1.17. So they can play some ball. Langston is also outscoring opponents by an average, and this is where it gets interesting, 24.2 points per game. Langston University returns action on Thursday. That's tonight versus Southwestern Assembly of God in Waxahachie, Texas. The Lions' next home matchup is set for January 19 versus Mid-American Christian. With that being said, I got to get you in on this. What are your thoughts in terms of Langston being ranked as high as they are, third in the nation?
Well, first of all, anytime you're at this point of the season in basketball and you are 0, you're doing pretty good. You're doing pretty good. You know, Langston has. I'm looking at Langston's schedule right now. They've beaten some. Take out the early matchups with teams with 1-0 and 2-0 and 0-1 and stuff like that. They've beaten some decent teams. They've beaten like a Wayland Baptist, who was 7-3 at the time of their matchup. But I am going, and I hate to be that antithesis for this, but they've played about 5 opponents who were under 500 at that point in time. So just I think it's great how Chris Wright built his schedule to build the momentum for Langston to get into this N-0 mark, 11-0. Now, but you know as well as I do, Doc, all that doesn't matter. You're into the meat of conference play now. Teams know each other. Coaches tend to know each other. Chris Wright does have the advantage of him being a new coach. Coaches don't know him. But at the same time, he has that disadvantage of him not knowing the other coaches and their style. Can Langston keep this momentum going? I sure hope so. Because this man shows that he knows what he's doing. I mean, he was only in the national championship game last year. Just if he faces anybody but Loyola while he's at Talladega, he's the national championship coach. So, you know, it's great. But the amazing story is it's not so much as the 15-0, Dr. Cavil. Did you see Langston's record last year? They were like 0 for the conference and like 1-2 for the season.
Yeah.
So the fact that you've turned this around is good.
Great point.
The and makes it that much better of a story. And one last thing, while you talking about that school out in Oklahoma, the HBCU that's the furthest to the west, don't disrespect the women and the job that Coach Kevin Harrod has done with the women out there at Langston also, the Langston Lady Lions.
Great point. Great point when you talk about NAIA programs. We'll see Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, a group of HBCUs at the NAIA level. Conference play begins this weekend. So it'll be interesting. You got Talladega, Tougaloo that you talked about. Talladega, where he came from, doing well. Tougaloo is getting votes in the top 25. So it's interesting to see how this mix of HBCUs operating at the NAIA level. And we'll see where they match up. Because when we do the mid-major, we put both the NAIA and NCAA Division II programs together. So we'll see what that looks like. I love what you all do Sunday night in terms of the power rankings that you all put together and how you separate out Division II NAIA programs, which gives more programs much more love. So I have appreciation for what that looks like, putting a different spin on there. And obviously you have the Division I's as well. Make sure people understand that you do every level for both men's and women's in basketball. So we might get a chance to tease that out a little bit and compare the two just to see where they look like in terms of what that analysis is. I did want to take advantage of this before I go to you and see what you want to discuss from a news perspective. And I will just kind of get this out here because we talked about this again. But I wanted to remind folks, SWAC announces men's and women's basketball HBCU Go schedule. So keep on the lookout for your HBCU Go. Obviously, if you caught it last Saturday and Monday there when you talk about Texas Southern and Arkansas, Pine Bluff, Bethune-Cookman at Southern, some nice matchups game Go that you can catch up with. 14th and 16th, which is this week. You have Grambling State at Southern. That's a doubleheader. That's the early version of that game. What's interesting about that, the Southern at Grambling will not be at Grambling. It actually will be in Utah for the NBA All-Star game, a part of the HBCU Classic that the NBA puts together up there. So it'll be fascinating to see what the first version of that looks like. As Southern has gotten off hot 4-0, while Grambling is 3-1 on the men's side, and obviously the women are not doing bad for both programs as well. Then on Monday you get Jackson State at Texas Southern. It's going to be an interesting matchup when you talk about that. Jackson State is doing pretty good, undefeated 3-0, sitting behind Jackson in that. But then you have Texas Southern, if you would, that are 0-4. So it's fascinating to see what that looks like. Didn't want to give a lot of time on that, but obviously you can go to WB, catch that. You can go to the website and catch some of those big games. We'll keep you updated about this HBCU Go because people are not quite as familiar about those games, and they have a lot of games that will be showed this 2022-23 season in terms of 30-plus games, men's and women. So it'll be fascinating to see what that looks like. What other news that you wanted to share and get out of here, Drew?
Dr. Cavil, as we get ready for the NFL playoffs, let's stay with football and let's stay with the Cleveland Browns. The Cleveland Browns signed 4 former HBCU players to futures deals, and this is courtesy of HBCUGameDay.com. Former Jackson State and Morgan State wide receiver Dalen Baldwin, former Prairie View A&M linebacker Story Jackson, former South Carolina State defensive tackle Roderick Perry, and former Michigan State tackle Tyrone Wheatley Jr. were all signed to deals by the Cleveland Browns. A futures contract does not count against the salary cap or the roster limit for the current season. Instead, it is credited against the following year's salary cap, and the player counts against the 90 season of the all-season 90-man limit roster. Ironically, none of these players who agreed to deals with the Browns spent their entire careers at HBCUs. And you can go to HBCU.com to read more about their individual careers. All 4 men who own the practice squad with the Cleveland Browns are hoping to stick for the 2023 season. So this is good. At least these 4 young men know they will be in camp next year. So that gives them the extra motivation and opportunity to be seen. Not only will they be in camp next year, Doc, but now they'll get to go through OTAs and other off-season programs to hopefully improve their chances of, if not making it with the Browns, making it with another team in the NFL. But I wonder if players sign these type of contracts, if this may be a way of keeping them away from the USFL and the XFL, because these teams see that much potential in them and don't want to lose them to injury or possibly lose them to another team who realizes what they have if they go get some reps in the USFL or XFL. Just something I just want to throw in there as an add-on to that discussion that Dr. Cavil.
That's a great question and great point you make there in terms of these HBCU players getting the opportunity, but what does it mean in terms of future contracts and kind of understanding that language that they're signed literally not currently, but in terms of what Cleveland Browns want to bring them in the future. With that being said, quickly, A&T for first HBCU to really put out their 2023 schedule. Obviously, It's a schedule that consists of the Colonial Athletic Association in terms of the new conference that they will be a member of in football. Obviously, they started all other sports this academic year besides football. Not a lot that really stands out here. Obviously, they have 3 HBCUs on the program, or maybe not obviously, but they do have North Carolina Central, which will be played in Greensboro. They travel to Norfolk, and then obviously they have the conference game against Hampton, where they'll travel to see Hampton. So they'll travel back to Norfolk to take on Hampton. With that being said, there are 3 games that kind of stood out to me, I must admit, which is 3 in a row: Villanova, Delaware, and Richmond. Boy, I'm telling you, it's a pretty tough 3-game slate right in the middle of your schedule for new coach, as we talked about also. That was announced last weekend, got out there in media press there. So congratulations, Coach Brown. With that being said, we're going to get into our first break. We'll be back on the other side. We're going to give you the poll rankings. This time we're going to go with the mid-majors. We'll start with the women, give you a breakdown on these mid-major programs that consist of the top women's and men's, if you would, Division II and NAIA programs. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Support the Black College Sports Network so we can continue to provide you coverage. Go to myjbn.com/support and be a part of the Black College Sports Network.
They can follow their dreams. Let's get back to getting ticks instead of watching flicks. Before we can safely get out there, we need the facts on COVID-19 vaccines. Visit getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision for yourself and for your crew.
Charmin Ultra Soft has so much cushiony softness, it's hard for your family to remember they can use less.
Sweet pillows of softness.
This is soft.
Holy Charmin. Oh, excuse me. Roll it back, everybody.
Sorry.
Charmin Ultra Soft is so cushiony soft, you'll want more, but it's so absorbent, you can use less, so it's always worth it.
Now, what did we learn about using less?
You gotta roll it back, everybody.
We all go, why not enjoy the go with Charmin?
Maureen is saving big holiday shopping at Amazon, so now she's free to become Maureen the Merrier. Food is her love language, and she really loves her grandson. Like, really loves.
Since 2002, Empowerment Resources, Inc., a nonprofit organization, has empowered more than 1,500 youth and adults in Duval and surrounding counties through its programs Journey into Womanhood, Girls Mentoring, Life Skills for Teens, and Parenting Education Coaching. To get involved with programs, volunteer, or donate, visit www.empowermentresourcesinc.org. Follow us on social media, facebook.com/empowerment.resources and instagram.com/empowermentJAX.
Compress the analytic data with the hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
We go.
This is Dr. Cavill's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is on the break. Charles Bishop has joined us. Superman in the building. AD Drew broke it down and gave us some good news of the day. We're going to get into these mid-major poll rankings. First time we brought it out here week 1, so fresh off the press. I'm going to see if I can impress these two folks today. Remember, mid-major rankings, we do both NCAA Division II and NAIA. Some polls bring them together. Other ones keep them separate. We like to bring the mid-majors together. Similar to what we do for football. Not as many of these NAIA programs playing football, but I think since we started with football, we're going to finish it with basketball. Obviously, in a lot of ways, we see this similar into some of the baseball polls that are out there. Without further ado, let's get into those teams. Nobody dropped out first week out the box. But receiving votes was Lane Dragons, 10-3, 6-2 on the season. Out of the SIAC, playing some pretty good basketball, looking good at the Division II level. They are receiving votes with 22 points, so they just outside of the top 5. Got a little more work to do to get in the top 5. We'll see what that looks like as we move forward. Then on the women's, continuing, number 5, Philander Smith Panthers, 9-2, 1-0. Obviously, this is released on Tuesday, so just want to keep that in mind as you see these rankings throughout the basketball season. 32 points put them at number 5. Bringing us to number 4, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets, 11-2, 6-2, 37 points as they are at number 4. Bringing us to number 3, we're going to go into the state of Florida. Yes, NAIA, Florida, for that matter, deep down in Florida. Florida Memorial Lions, 11-5, 6-1, playing some good basketball. They're at number 3 with 41 points. We're going to go up to Georgia to get back to number 2, which is Savannah State Tigers, 10-3, 6-2, 2 first-place votes, 56 points. But holding on to number 1 that just edged them out with more first-place votes, 4 to be exact, is none other than the Tuskegee Golden Tigers, 12-3, 9-1, 58 points. They get it done playing some great basketball. You see it there. Golden State Tigers on the women are getting it done with the top 5. Charles, I'm going to go to you. I'm going to ask you to hold on and bite your tongue because I just see how your little sweat on your brow there. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, but I'm going to let the sweat on AD's brow go first. Go ahead, Drew. Tell me, what do you think about my mid-major poll as we debut it in week number 1?
Well, one update on one of your on their teams that was ranked. Florida Memorial defeated Weber International today, 95-66. So let's chalk one more up for Florida Memorial as they have went on here and secured that victory.
They're gonna try to climb. They say they want to climb.
They want to climb, and let's also remember GCAC has the first 2 or 3 roundups that they have going on both the men and the women's side. So I expect, let's see if Philander Smith holds coming out of this roundup, or does the team?
Because there's another team over there that wants to get a piece of this rust. I hadn't forgot about Rust. But if I had some points on there and decided to go, they would be in there. But they get a chance to make a statement this weekend. Can they find their way to get in the top 5 after this weekend? I know where you're going, Drew. I like that. That's
exactly.
Right. Go ahead.
Exactly. And if you were on HBCU Nightly last night, as I know all 3 of us were at one point in time, I don't know if Charles was around when I got it handed to me on HBCU Nightly as the representative of the Black College Sports Network.
I had told him before that you had a computer ranking, but you did well, man. You did well.
Yeah. So, Russ is looking for their respect. So I definitely want to see Russ. Team that's surprising a lot of people is Lane, though, out of the SIAC. Lane, especially on the women's side, has not been a basketball power. And I've got one other team I want you to keep an eye out for in the SIAC, and that is Miles women. A little bit inconsistent. When they get on the road, they're good, but I've seen them give some games away. Last question before I turn it over to Charles. Dr. Cavil, where's the CIAA? I'm sorry, go ahead, Charles.
That's exactly where I'm going.
Hey, they need to keep it all the time.
I looked and I had to.
Go ahead, Charles. Go ahead, Charles.
I almost wanted to see the poll rankings up again because I just assumed I missed it. But I did not see a CIAA team. I especially did not see Lincoln, Pennsylvania at 10-5 overall, 5-1 in the CIAA. Defending conference champions.
You say 10-5?
I raised Clapton women to your Lincoln, Charles.
Well, there's another one. I missed both of them, so I was like, okay, well, Well, maybe I didn't see it. Maybe I need to put my glasses on. I missed it.
Dr. Cavil, you may need to go to top 10 when it comes to mid majors. I'm just throwing it out.
Hey, no, we're gonna keep this. We're gonna keep this selective. You gotta put in that work to get in this top 5. Now we might spread out against some more receiving votes. We'll stretch it out because there are those teams that you talked about that receive votes. I just cut it for the brevity of the show, but I might show them a little more love, let them know how close they are. But at the end of the day, you got to put in work. Get some W's. All I ask is for W's. You get the W's, you get in top 5. You don't get the W's, keep working. That's what I tell you. Keep working. But I like the way y'all broke it down. A lot of good stuff, a lot of good comments in terms of CIAA, Lincoln. Y'all just showing all this love for Russ. I see where y'all. Good thoughts, good Frank.
Well, I want to make sure I stay in my house, so I'm going to show a whole lot of love for Russ.
One more team, Dr. Cavil. One more team.
You're right.
Steelman on the women's side.
Yeah, I just see what they doing. Put the work. Tell them what they doing over there, so everybody else that doesn't know.
Yeah, that's another one of those schools I got a phone call from about where they were in the BCSN poll. So at least, Dr. Cavil, we know that these coaches and these players are
paying attention,
watching and respecting our polls, or showing how they disrespect our polls by their displeasure. But at least we know the fans may not be watching it, but we know the players and the coaches are watching.
I think the fans are watching too, to put it all together. They're just not quite as loud right now. The coaches have a lot online, and I like that. That's the way it's supposed to be. You want to be special, made special. Just keep doing what you're doing. Them coaches are putting in work, and congratulations on that. The players are out there doing their thing. Just keep getting those buckets, playing some good defense, and we'll make it happen. We'll find you a way where you get in the top 5. But right now, it all goes to Philander Smith at number 5. At number 4, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets. At number 3, Florida Memorial Lions. At number 2, Savannah State Tigers. And number 1, Tuskegee Golden Tigers. This is week 1, fellas, as they say. Relax.
That's true. That's true.
We got a lot of basketball to be played. With that being said, let's get into our break. We'll come back on the other side and we'll do it for the men's side and see how much consternation we put out then. See if there's the coaches rambling or is that a much clearer picture. We'll see. And we'll see if we can get some love for the CIAA. Stick with us. We'll be right back after this break.
Your ad could be ran here. MyJBN.com/support. MyJBN.com/support for more information.
The new GMC Sierra with hands-free driving offers the most advanced and luxurious pickup in its class. Yeah, it rocks.
From novice to aficionado, find yourself here. High quality cigars plus personal customer service. Slow Burn is Waco's only mobile cigar lounge, featuring a meticulous, curated collection of premium cigars. Visit our website, www.slowburnwaco.com. That's www.slowburnwaco.com.
Supermarket sushi, really?
No. Wait, Troy, you work here?
I'm never not working. Like Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology, up to 100% dandruff protection, even between washes.
Never not working, huh?
Oh, Troy, you're such a good teacher.
Yeah, I know. Never not working. Never not working. Never ever not working.
Are you serious?
Never not working. Dandruff protection that's never not working. Head & Shoulders Scalp Shield technology.
It's like a loop machine. All around town, people trying to get down.
That's the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Charles Bishop and A.D. Drew. That's Professor Bishop, Clinical Professor Drew. Let's get in on the mid-major division. As I said, it's week 1, so nobody dropped out. We'll see what goes in the mix as we get into week 2. We're receiving votes for Lander Smith Panthers, sit at 10-1, 1-0, conference play at 38 points. Tuskegee Golden Tigers at 12-4, 7-2 at 31 points, just outside of the top 5. So both men's and women's programs doing pretty well. Let's get in the top 5 as I see Charles gleam in his eyes. He has some questions already. But just relax, as I told you on the women's side. At number 5, Virginia State Trojans sit at 11-4 and 4-0. That's out of the CIAA. So CIAA gets some love, 46 points. At number 4, you got Claflin Panthers, also out of the CIAA, 12-2, 4-2, 58 points. At number 3, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets in top 5 in both polls, sitting at 13-1, 71, 63 points. And number 2, Tougaloo Tornadoes at 12-0, 1-0 out of the NAIA, 2 first place votes, 74. It's something about being undefeated. I'm going to give you some love. And number 1, Langston Lions, obviously number 3 in the poll as we opened up and gave you that news. They sit at 15-0, number 1, 9-0, 6 first place votes, 78 points. When you got a clean slate, you're going to hold near the top of the polls. Now, if you can't finish out those programs that may have had a little tougher schedule, they might bump you. But right now, there's something about having that clean sheet. I like you at the top of the polls. I'm going to go to you, Charles, since you're making all that noise, whining and dining over there. You got something to say. Go ahead. Bring it, brother.
Well, now I don't see anybody from the SIAC. What's going on with this?
We just received a vote.
They need some. They need some work. They need to win.
Okay, well, yeah. Shout out to Coach Eric Struthers, Tougaloo Bulldogs. I mean, they are undefeated thus far this season. So definitely got to give shout out to the home team.
Didn't they quietly go down into Jackson and sneak away and get off the record?
Yeah, off the record elbow is what it was.
Look as bad as the fact that Jackson State is 3-0 in the SWAC.
Yeah, now off the record elbow. But you caught me off guard when I'm looking at a Virginia State team that's 5-0 in conference play already, and they come in at number 5. I was kind of expecting them to be up a little higher, but all right, it's your poll. So 12-4, that's a pretty good record.
I'm glad you recognize that. It's your poll. Either he don't want to smoke or he just trying to smoke some love. I don't know which one it is. I do know. This is Charles. I do know. With that being said, that's all right. You just get up and they work out tomorrow.
I know, right?
About you in the morning, rolling in it a little late. I know what you're doing. I know where you work out. With that being said, Clinical Professor Drew. Exactly. Clinical Professor Drew. What you got to say about the poll?
All right. First of all, and not sure if this counted on the record or not, but I know Tougaloo was narrowly defeated by Mississippi College. Don't know if that was considered an exhibition or a game. So we'll have to look at that when we come back around and do the polls next week, Dr. Cavil. But still, 12-0, 12-1, whatever at this point in time in the season, especially like Charles said, they quietly defeated Jackson State early this season. It's some type of scrimmage, exhibition game, whatever you want to call it. A W is a W when you play at D1. So we'll take that out there. Interesting that NAIA is at the top of the poll, Dr. Cavil. Just want to throw that out there. West Virginia State. Brian Poore picked up victory number 400 over the weekend. Congratulations to him. And West Virginia State is the top Division II team in your poll, Dr. Cavil. Team that was left out of your poll, though, that I think you need to keep an eye out for is the Miles Golden Bears. Coach Fred Watson also picked up number 400 over the weekend on Saturday with he has 11 20-win seasons in his 21 year career. Kind of how you get to 400 that fast when you got all those 20-win seasons. But congratulations,
That's
Coach
right.
Watson. If you go to BCSN.info, you see the article that I wrote on not only Coach Watson, but Coach Poole on them picking up that victory number 400. It's going to be interesting in SIAC West, though, Dr. Cavil. Have you actually looked at the conference standings in the SIAC?
And bunched up.
And the power is on the West.
Yeah.
The only team coming into this week that was not 500 in conference in the West was Spring Hill. Every other team in the SIAC West was 500 and above, with Tuskegee, Miles, LeBoyne Owen, and who am I forgetting? All
Kentucky State
with Kentucky State with two conference losses. They've got different amount of wins, but they all sitting there with the same amount in the loss column in the SIAC. So, boy, I am looking forward to being able to get to Savannah, Georgia, and watch these teams battle it out in the SIAC tournament.
I'm going to throw you out a dark horse team to keep an eye on going forward. And this is Shaw Bears. They've won 5 in a row, and they got a good one upcoming this weekend. They got Virginia State, Elizabeth City State at home, and Virginia State at home. So Virginia, keep the eye out for that Shaw Virginia State matchup on Monday.
Oh yeah, that's gonna be fun. Keep your eyes on that. And we'll talk a little bit more about some other games in the next segment to keep your eyes on. But I'm glad you pointed that one out. Now, Drew, go ahead. I know you wanted to jump back in there with some other.
I was going to say, last dark horse, if you want to talk about it, Charles, coming back to the SIAC, is the host team for the tournament, Savannah State Tigers. Last year they stuck up over everybody and won the SIAC tournament. Coach Horace Broadnax over there. Now, this year, he's coming from out front and establishing himself in the SIAC East, trying to show that last year's run in the tournament was not a fluke and handling his business, still playing that tough Georgetown-style defense that they play down there at Savannah State.
And let me throw you another team out that's just fun to watch because they throw alley-oops all game. Benedict is a fun team to watch. I had an opportunity to watch them do the play-by-play for Benedict and Morehouse. And the first 9 points of the game was like 3 dunks. So they attacked. Yeah.
See, with Benedict, is he the boom or bust? That's the only problem with Benedict.
Yeah.
Because when that lob pass is just behind him, then it just those empty possessions, they go down and it's 2 points the other way. So I've seen Benedict also. So I know exactly what you're talking about, y'all. They are fun to watch.
Sticking in, you talk about the east side of the SIAC. Albany State coach, I think you mentioned, also picked up 600 wins. When you talk about these coaches that had reached 400 wins, let's talk a little bit about that too, Drew.
Yeah, and that was actually on the women's side, Dr. Veer, Coach Robert Skinner. He started the season with 598. Don't know how I missed it when I was going through and looking at my milestones for the upcoming season. I believe he's up to about 605 right now, but he passed 600 back in early December. So we talked about Coach Fred Watson. We talked about Brian Poole on the men's side. Let's give our roses to Coach Robert Skinner, who began his coaching career at Payne College, and he's been at Albany State, I believe, since about 1992, 93, somewhere in there. So he's got a long, storied career, spanned over 30 years, and has picked up 600 victories in those 30-plus years that he's been on the SIAC and Albany State hardwood.
Good stuff. Let me give it to you again to make sure, since these guys throwing out all these teams, I want to make sure y'all recognize in week number 1 who are the top 5. That's Virginia State Trojans. At number 5, at number 4, Claflin Panthers. Number 3, West Virginia State Yellow Jackets. At number 2, Tougaloo, Tornadoes. And number 1, Langston Lions are all getting it done. With that being said, we'll be right back after this last break, and we'll get into some of the games to watch for next week. We want to see. Charles kind of teased the game out that you need to keep your eyes in the CIAA. We'll go through multiple conferences and tell you which games you need to keep your eyes on and why. Stick with us. after we get on the other side of this break, you got that extended weekend with Martin Luther King holiday. Want to make sure you all go out and do your services and celebrate the great holiday there. That being said, stick with us. We'll be right back after this last break. Give you some more and talk about the games to keep your eyes on in this upcoming week.
Don't worry, Ma. We'll be there soon.
We? Is this the one?
Well, let's say I found the one who takes me to another level. Always stays calm under pressure. Most importantly, the one that helps me discover the coolest places.
This sounds wonderful.
Come outside, I'll introduce you.
They're here.
Definitely the one.
Introducing the all-new Nissan Frontier.
At CDW, we get speed as the new currency of success.
Our team spends way too much time tending to outdated applications and software when they should be focused on driving application agility and innovation.
CDW Amplify Development Services modernizes software and application development to help accelerate innovation and digital transformation.
So you mean building new applications, UI, and mobile interfaces?
Well, you said you needed to innovate more quickly.
Oh, so he's a listener.
To do more at scale, trust CDW Amplify Development Services.
Thank you guys for what you do for HBCU athletics. This is a fantastic avenue for all of us. This is our ESPN, so we love what you guys do. Brian, AD, Roy, all you guys at BCSN. We really appreciate what it is that you guys do for us.
Press the analytic data with your hip hop. If you know them like I know them, they gon' tell you if your team, if they wanna lose, and who the ball. So listen to Professor, yes sir, and pay attention, cause he gon' teach a lesson.
This is Dr. Cavil with Inside. This is Dr. Cavil with Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Professor Bishop, Clinical Professor Drew. Let's get into some of these games this weekend. We got a couple of matchups. You talked about some scores of today. And you have the women, Colonial, that play on Friday and Sunday in terms of some of these matchups. But most of our games, obviously, with the Colonial on the men's side come today. When you look at the OVC with Tennessee State Hampton, North Carolina A&T that actually got in the game yesterday, are generally on Thursdays and Saturdays. That Saturday is a lot of games because we get into those MEAC, SWAC matchups as well as that carry on to Monday. But with that being said, as we look at some of these key matchups going on, I'm going to go to you, Charles, and start out with the CIAA. What's on your mind? What are some of the hot games, whether it's men's or women's, that you want the viewers to keep their eyes on in terms of some of those matchups?
The big one is this Saturday. Virginia Union heads to Virginia State. That's going to be a rock'em sock'em there. That's going to be a fun one. You talking about two of the top scorers in the CIAA playing in this one. I believe the top scorers are 1-2 in this one. I'm trying to update my stats now. Of course, my computer is going through a refresh, but that's going to be a huge one. When you take a look at these two teams going at it, they're 1-2 in the standings in CIAA. And then I mentioned one earlier, Shaw. They have a battle with Virginia State on January 18th. So looking forward to that one as well. So Virginia State, two huge games this weekend.
Oh, good stuff. Good stuff. CIAA keep your eyes on it. They have the first tournament up, but they got to get through this season. For those seasons, we'll see what's going on. AD Drew, I want you to go into your home conference, if you would, as you just cover Division IIs out of the SIAC so well. But then I'm going to ask you to stretch it out a little bit. I want you to give me some Gulf Coast Athletic Conference as they're doing their roundup. So tell me, what are some of the games that you want to keep your eyes on out of the SIAC and the Gulf Coast Athletic Conference, men's and or women's?
All right, let's start off with the SIAC. Look at that. Hey, on the men's side, you got Savannah State traveling to Morehouse on this Saturday. That's 1 o'clock in Atlanta, Georgia. And these times that I'm going to be giving are going to be Eastern. Hey, here's a big SIAC West matchup on Saturday. That will be Lemoyne versus Tuskegee. Traveling to Tuskegee, you know, those two teams, we said earlier, both 2 losses, separated by a couple of wins, but they both have 2 conference losses. So those are going to be the key matchups that I want to see on Saturday in the SIAC. And on the women's side, in the SIAC women, Saturday, not a lot of feature matchups when it comes to the women's side. Let's move on to Monday in the SIAC. Hey, here's the top women's matchup for the weekend. Lane travels to Tuskegee. Both these teams at the top of the SIAC standings. That's going to be an 8 o'clock Eastern time game on Monday. And let me warn everybody, for the games that you plan to attend on the holidays, double check the school's website and other social media, because a lot of people are moving their games up to early afternoon games or mid-afternoon games on Monday because it is a holiday. So double check these times for any games that we give you on Monday. But once again, Lane Tuskegee is going to be a feature matchup. How about Kentucky State and Miles on the men's side on Monday? That's going to be another feature matchup in the SIAC. Hey, we can't forget, Morehouse travels to Howard on Monday for that special event that they have up at Howard. So those are 3 games that I wanted to highlight coming out of the SIAC on Monday. Let's switch over to the GCAC. They've got a roundup going on the men's side. That's going to be held at Dillard in New Orleans. On Friday, your highlight matchup is going to be Tougaloo and Philander Smith facing off in New Orleans. That's going to be an afternoon game. That's going to be at 3 o'clock down there in New Orleans. On Saturday, your feature matchup is probably going to be your Wiley Russ. Once again, that's the opening game. That's the 3 o'clock game on that particular day. And
there go your Russ, Charles.
Yes.
And on Sunday, hey, probably the best game was going to be the last game. That's going to be the 8 o'clock game. That's going to be Wiley and Dillon. Switching over to the women's side in the GCAC on Friday, Russ, Dillon. That's going to be your 6 o'clock game. These games are in Nashville on Friday night. On Saturday, your key matchup that you want to look at is going to be, I'm going to go off the radar, Tougaloo and Fisk. And I'm going off the radar with Tougaloo and Fisk because these are 2 teams that have not gotten off to a good start. So these teams want to basically plan for not to be in that bottom spot. But I'm be honest, one of these teams are going to want to see either Russ or Philander Smith in the tournament. Not the way that those 2 teams are playing right now. And on Sunday, and on Sunday, hey, kind of tough with this one, but let's go with Oakwood and Russ. You know, these 2 teams, it's ironic that these 2 teams are going all the way down to New Orleans. Probably close if those 2 teams played, did a home and home, but hey, they're going to face the New Orleans, so why not? Oakwood Russ on Sunday would be my key matchup. And that's going to be a 1 o'clock game down there in New Orleans.
And this is a GCAC roundup?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, they They've got a roundup in Nashville, and then they've got a roundup in New Orleans. They've got some men and some women's teams competed in both. And I think Dr. Kiki Baker Balls went to this to kind of help cut down on travel, especially for some of those teams. I mean, can you imagine Fisk having to play Wiley on a Monday night in basketball? I mean, those kids ain't going back to class until Wednesday. So if they can get all these games in on a Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I guess it kind of helps with the travel in class. So I understand the concept of it. I just picked those two teams because geographically, those are the two furthest points in the conference.
I like the way it matches, especially with college players in a lot of ways from AAU ball. They're used to playing, a lot of games over a short period of time in these tournaments. So I think it's feasible in terms of that nature. And as you said, economically, it cuts down on the cost of travel. So you find a way to make it work. I like it. With that being said, Wendy Jenkins jumped in here and said, let's go Russ, making sure that she lets everybody know. Belinda Johnson says, come on, Braves. Silas Edwards McMorris says there will be no Texas sweep. That's based on the fact that Belinda Johnson said, let's go Alcorn Braves. Let's sweep Texas. Ooh. Tony Mack is in the building. Theron Waters. Yeah. Karen Griffin. That's what they're saying. Edwin D. Moore goes back a little bit over the poll and say your professors aren't comfortable with your bottom five. Yeah. Sometimes as a dean, you get that. And you got to talk to your professors and walk them off the ledge. They have a little control of their classroom. And so you tell them some things and sometimes they talk about what happened to my individualism in the classroom. What happened? I was like, oh man, come on, just sign the paper. Sign the paper. Lonnie Globe, good evening, everyone. By Norfolk State University Spartans can't be touched in the MEAC. Behold the green and gold Spartan.
Yes, sir.
Nation. Hashtag yes, Spartan, both men's and women's. As Lennon is talking about getting it done. Glendon Brown, Trudy Jackson, Wildmeyer, Will Marcelin over there, Florida Memorial, holding it up in the top five, getting it done. Jay Norrells, Franklin Nelson, Sarah Beverly, G. Boom Holly in the building, Brandon King, Willie Bolden, Jazzy Faye, Ricky Burton, Chuck Hunt, Carol Keelan. Good evening, everyone, as they started off the show with us. Just want to give some love to some of the folks out there. Lawrence D. White, Carol, as I said, Keelan getting it done all the way out of PV representing. Appreciate y'all. Let's get in here and talk about the games that were as we go to the Division I level and shout it out. Let me give you this.
Can I give you one game? Can I give you one other NAIA game before you get to the Division I for the weekend?
Yeah, hurry up quickly.
All right, quickly. In the Red River Athletic Conference, Monday's matchup, Xavier travels, number 23 LSU Shreveport travels to Xavier on Monday. That's another key game that you want to watch out for in the NAIA. That is a Red River.
I'm glad you got that one in there. And keep your eyes on Langston as they continue to be top three. Great points. Way to get that in there. Xavier, make sure we show them some love being top 25. With that being said, as we switch over to Division I, we had some games played yesterday on the men's side of the Colonial. A&T came from behind and got it done on the road, beating Elon 80-71. Solid victory there. Not so much for Hampton Pirates as they fall to William and Mary 81-65. Hampton was on the road in that matchup. And you look at the standings, you struggling a little bit for Pirates as they sit at 3-14 on the season and 0-5 in the Colonial. A little better by North Carolina A&T as they're 7-11 overall and 2-3 in the standings, to give you some updates of what's going on in the Colonial on the men's side there. As we talk about the games of the day, you got Tennessee State as they face off against UT Martin. Your women are playing now with Tennessee State. The Tigers are leading UT Martin 50-45. That's in the fourth quarter as there 8:30 left in that matchup, to give you some updates of what's taking place there. So obviously be interested in what we see with Tennessee State and UT Martin. Tennessee State men, top 5 program, doing pretty well. They need to get that victory to get some a little more consistent in OVC as they're just 2-2, but they got a chance to make a statement. So I'm interested to see what that looks like as they get it going on there, to give some information what's going on in the Colonial for the women. I wanted to give a little shout out in terms of the women of North Carolina A&T as they're getting it done over there. Obviously, top 5 program. They sit at on the women's side, let me get that for you. Excuse me. As you know, they're undefeated 4-0 in terms of what they're doing in the conference, playing some really good basketball as they have some big matchups ahead of them in terms of what's going on. 4-0 again in the conference play, but sitting at 10-5 in terms of overall with a really good record on the season in terms of what that looks like. Big matchups coming on this weekend. Let's get into the rest of the games as we move forward a little bit. Let's see that Sunday matchup. I want to get this out there for the Colonial. You have A&T take on Delaware. A&T sits at 10-5. Delaware is 8-6. So I think that's the matchup you want to keep your eyes on. I wanted to point that game out as that is a Sunday matchup this weekend. Looking forward. Going into the SWAC, Charles, what are your thoughts? What are some big matchups? Jackson and Alcorn, Mississippi comes to Texas. Texas Southern is struggling. Jackson State, surprising some, got up to 3-0. But this is another chance for them to make a huge statement. Prairie View sitting at 2-2, wanting to get some victories at home. Alcorn obviously won the regular season last year. Had that tough loss to Jackson, but now that loss may not be looking as bad as you may have thought originally coming into it. This is an Alcorn team that went on the road and got some big victories against Texas and Prairie View last year. What are your thoughts? What are your matchups for the weekend in terms of the SWAC, men and or women?
Oh, it's definitely the Texas two-step. When you talk about Alcorn and Jackson State coming into Texas this weekend, Texas Southern, the bully of the SWAC, they're a little wounded right now, so everybody wants to get their licks in on Texas Southern right now. So it's a pivotal weekend, I think, for Texas Southern, both with Alcorn Saturday night and Jackson State on Monday night, especially with regards to the men. An interesting matchup for me is watching this Jackson State women's basketball team. Prairie View always plays them extremely tough down there at Prairie View. So that's going to be a one to watch, I think. You might want to get there early for that one. That's going to be a pretty good one. And Sandy Pugh always seems to get her charges ready for that Jackson State team coming in. But I think those are the games that I'm going to keep an eye on this weekend.
Prairie View women are playing some pretty good basketball, too, in regards to sitting at 3-1 in the conference play, finding their own top 5 program just outside of it, getting some work on the women's side. So very important when you look at that. Let me go to you, Drew, on the MEAC. What are some of your games that you want to look at the MEAC? You have South Carolina State, North Carolina Central, Howard and Norfolk State, Delaware State and Maryland Eastern Shore, Morgan State and Coppin State. Obviously, the Battle of Baltimore may be one that jumps out at you. But in your mind, what are the key matchups, men, women? What do you say in terms of the MEAC?
Definitely interested in the Howard-Norfolk game on the women's side. You know, Howard has had a good run in the MEAC for the last couple of years. Norfolk is doing in the MEAC right now what Jackson State women are doing in the SWAC. So this will be that game that will see if Howard is Howard when it comes to women, or if Howard would look like Alabama A&M and Alabama State. Good teams against everybody, not named Jackson State. So this is going to be that game that's going to tell that on the women's side for the MEAC. And also on the men's side, hey, it's got to be Central right now. You know, Central, for lack of better words, Norfolk State. Actually, truth be told, you probably just want to sit there for both games, at Norfolk State and Howard game, because on the men's and the women's side with the Norfolk State men are doing, Howard men a good run. But hey, Coach Bolton over there at Central, anytime he playing ball, chances are I might want to tune in to that. And then, of course, Doc, on Monday, once again, we're going from the MEAC perspective, Morehouse travels to Howard. Great day, King Day. Is that game going to be, I don't see anything as far as TV or streaming on that.
It's televised on FS1. FS1.
Okay. Oh, it's on Fox.
FS1. Okay. Fox Sports 1. Yep.
Okay.
Glad you brought that up.
It's not on the website. That's why I asked that.
Yeah, it's one to keep your eyes on. I happened to look at it the other day, and that's why it stuck with me. But I'm glad you asked and brought it up for those that may have not seen it. Before we get out of here, I did want to talk about the SWAC matchups: Grambling Southern, Arkansas Pine Bluff, Valley, Bethune-Cookman. Obviously, FAMU, Bethune-Cookman with the Arkansas Pine Bluff and Valley. They
Southern Grammar.
In terms of Saturday. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what that looks like. But the one that I want to keep my eyes out, and I talked about it in the earlier segment, is that Grambling Southern. Obviously, Southern is sitting at 4-0.
Yeah.
Grambling at 3-1 in terms of what they're doing on the men's side. But they're putting in work on the women's side as well, with Grambling sitting at 3-1, Southern sitting at 3-1 as well. So you got back-to-back matchups that are really solid on the men's and women's matchup for that night. And then you throw in the fact that it's a rivalry game. How do you beat that? So yeah, I'm excited about what that looks like in terms of what we're going to get seen for this Saturday. With that being said, we're going to call it the evening. Thank you for listening inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Make sure you share our podcast with your friends or colleagues. I am Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, the Dean of HBCU Sports, coming from inside the lab in the College of HBCU Sports with Mike Washington and Charles Bishop. Mike Washington is out on assignment, but we have A.D. Drew in the building. Again, we want to thank you for listening to Dr. Cavil's Inside the HBCU Sports Lab with Mike Washington, Charles Bishop, every Tuesday and Thursday. Have a great weekend. Get out there and support your HBCUs. Find some basketball, good basketball being played throughout the South, Southwest, Southeast, South Atlantic. Get out there and see some good basketball. Even in the Midwest, you got some games going on. We look forward to next week as we discuss the latest news in the lab. Follow me, Dr. Kenyatta Cavil, on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. That's DrKenyattacavil. Again, that's DrKenyattacavil. Inside the HBCU Sports Lab 1 on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube is Inside the HBCU Sports Lab. Dream big. Continue to move forward. We will talk with you soon. Charles?
Of course.
Drew?
Lecture.
Dismiss.
Let's go, Russ Bearcats.
Well, holla. Team you.
Oh, I love it. That's good.